Hi, this is a review of the Cartoon Shader and Cartoon Shader Pro features. First of all, open your scene. Create a new post-process volume by dragging it onto the scene. Set it to infinity. Let's add a new slot for our cartoon shader. Click the plus button and create a new asset reference. Go to our cartoon shader folder. You can use a pre-made instance, but let's create a new instance of our material and add it to our post-process. Great. As you can see, the material has been applied to our scene. Let's open the instance and go over the main settings. We can turn toon shading on and off. Toon effect intensity controls the intensity of our toon effect. We can adjust the strength of the effect. Darkness factor controls the amount of shadows. The default value is 0.5. Light blend amount 0.1 controls the intensity of light areas, and light blend amount 0.2 controls the intensity of dark areas. The default value is 1. If you want to completely eliminate the effect of light, set it to 0. Note that each parameter has a tooltip. Shadow color controls the color of the shadows. Let's set the shadow shade to this. Toon color controls the color of the effect. Let's choose this color. You can turn the outline effect on and off. See how the scene looks without lines. We can also control the intensity of the line effect. And the line distance fade parameter creates a line fade effect at a distance. We can also set any color for the outline lines. We can also get glowing lines if we increase the V parameter to 10. But let's return to the default values. The following settings control how lines are displayed. The settings are divided into two groups for greater control. The shader calculates depth lines and normal lines, then blends them together. You can adjust each of these groups separately. The intensity setting controls how strongly the lines are displayed. We can also control the line thickness. The contrast parameter controls the number of additional small lines. You can adjust it to add small details. Here you can see additional details appearing on the ground. Let's set the optimal parameters for this scene. If the darkness factor parameter is less than 1, shadows are rendered using ambient occlusion. When calculating AO, Unreal Engine uses distance blending technology to improve performance. This is why the shadows change depending on the distance to the camera. You can remove ambient occlusion from the shader calculations using the checkbox in the material. You can also use the darkness factor to adjust the shadows as mentioned earlier. The default value is 0.5. For other ways to configure ambient occlusion rendering, see our documentation. That concludes the setup for the Toon shader in the basic version. The next part of the video covers the Pro version. We'll explore the Pro version's additional features such as stencil mask, additional outline for landscape, background color, distance control, and rim light. Let's move on to our Pro version. Let's disable our base material and create a new slot. Then we'll create a new Pro instance and add it to the post-process volume. The instance has been applied. Let's quickly set up the basic configuration just as we did earlier. The first thing we'll look at is the stencil mask. This allows us to include or exclude objects from the shader's render. To do this, we need to tweak the project settings a bit. Go to Project Settings and enter Stencil Mask, then select Enabled with Stencil. Now let's enable the stencil mask in our shader and make the mask global. Now that we have a global mask, let's exclude an object. Go to the Object's Settings, Rendering section. Enable Render Custom Depth Pass and set stencil value to 1. As you can see, the object has become normal, while the Toon shader is applied to the rest of the world. This is how you can exclude objects from the render. Let's do the same with another object. Now let's make the mask local by turning off the Is Stencil Mask Global option. Now the effect is applied only to our objects. Let's use another parameter from the Pro version and desaturate them. Too high a saturation value can lead to unexpected effects. You can use this, but let's leave the value at 1. This is how stencil masks work. You can use this in your project. You can apply the cartoon effect only to specific objects, such as characters or resources. Let's move on to Landscape Custom Outline. I'll demonstrate this in another scene. As you can see, we have a scene with the Toon shader applied. For better visibility, let's change the line color to blue. Enable the Is Custom Edges for Landscape option. Next, go to the rendering settings for our landscape, enable the Render Custom Depth Pass option, just as we did earlier, and set the value to 100. This is a special value for landscapes within the cartoon shader. As we can see, the new outline has been applied, and we can customize it as we see fit. With these settings, we'll get a soft outline along the edges of the landscape. You can adjust the settings as you like to achieve the best results. For example, with these settings, we add a yellow grid outline to our landscape. Let's move on to the background color setting. Enable the Is Far Background Color option. Adjust the distance and color. This setting is responsible for creating fog on the horizon. Next, let's look at the rim light setting. This setting adds a glow effect to the edges of an object using the Fresnel effect. You can adjust the intensity and color. It's also best to keep the rim light radius between 4 and 5 to avoid overexposure. Now you can see a yellow glow. Let's make some more interesting adjustments. Let's add more atmosphere to our scene by changing some other settings. That's what I like. It turned out a bit cyberpunk, but that's even better. You can customize the shader however you like. Let's take a look at the last setting. Draw a distance. Set it to 0. Then, as you increase the distance slowly, you can see how the effect gradually fills the scene. You can animate this parameter via Blueprint or Sequencer to achieve an unusual character appearance effect or something similar. Also, a tip. If you set the V value in the color section to 10 or higher, it creates a glow effect. You can use this to give your character supervision or something similar. That concludes my review of Cartoon Shader and Cartoon Shader Pro. We've covered all the main features and their functions. If you still have questions, check out our detailed documentation, which explains the settings and technical features. You can also email us. In the comments below the video, let us know what you'd like to see in future updates. Thank you for your attention and stay in touch.